People who come off slimming jabs regain weight 4 times faster than dieters. Now, when I read that statement, I automatically thought the same thing that happens every time something about medication or health comes up within the media, and it's that it's removing the accountability from the public and from people from actually looking at their individual health. So GLP-1s in general for me are a controversial topic. I think they have a lot of benefits, but I think they are heavily misused, and it's very controversial for me, and I am in between two places when it comes to recommending them and prescribing them. So this video, I will try to go through my thoughts in relation to this document, share why I think there are different viewpoints to this and that it's not solely on the health system, but then I like to be a holistic and try to be as minimally biased as possible. So I will show both sides. I will show the bad sides of healthcare and just give people a bit more education about the most popular medication that's been on the market probably in a generation and probably ever. And this is another conversation, but it's one of the only pharmaceutical products where people will inject without actually complaining or looking into the science behind it. They will do it freely as opposed to vaccines. Again, another conversation, but let's go into it. So this was from the BBC and they were relating to a study really that was done by the British Medical Journal, and it was saying that people regain 4 times weight within the same period. And I will go to this study now, so the BMJ. There's a nice infographic here and it is showing that if you look at the pink line, I'll actually go back to the beginning. So if you look, it says intervention here and it's 6,322 people. So those are people who are on some form of pharmacological intervention. So that could be a weight loss injection. It could also be tablets. So I'm guessing it would have been Orlistat. And then you look at the pink, which are the controls. So these are people who are just going through weight loss through conventional means. That will be just going to the gym, going through normal dietary things, the things that happened before the last 5 years. That is the normal diet that we would associate with weight loss. And if you look at the graph, it does show that once you have the weight loss phase, so this dotted line here where it goes down to minus 15 kilos, they are the newer medications, mainly relating to Mounjaro because they have 2 different hormones within them, which I will come on to how they work in a bit. And they have lost, in essence, 3 times more weight. But if you look at where they cross the baseline, they are recovering at such a fast rate. They are basically regaining all that weight. And a lot of this data is predicted, but from the outlook, it is looking like a lot of these people are gaining weight a lot faster than what they would have anticipated. And I think this is unambiguous, and it's something that I have actually predicted a long time ago, and it's something that I do speak about with any patients that I do converse with, any family members that go on this medication. I have the same views and have done for a long time. And I always feel as though GLP-1s are a really good medication when used correctly, which I'll come on to, but I do feel as though they have created this revolution where people will be on GLP-1s for the rest of their life. I just feel as though the way we've created this environment where it's so easy to reach all these health metrics that people want to obtain, I just think it's going to be hard to go back to anything where you require some thinking and hard work to go into it. But when you go back to this article and you look at later on, so Eli Lilly, so they are the pharmaceutical company who make Mounjaro. They are basically saying that the medication needs to be used in conjunction with healthy eating, physical activity and medical follow-up, which is correct. And I will come on to the manufacturer's guidance in a second. But then if you look at Novo Nordisk, who make Wegovy, and I think they were the original ones in this. Well, the original is exenatide, which was mainly used for diabetes, not that good for weight loss. Then the next one along was one called Saxenda as the brand. The actual name was liraglutide. They were made by Novo Nordisk, I think from memory. So they are basically saying that obesity is of chronic nature and that we have to maintain improvements in weight and overall health. So it's basically going down the route that patients need to concede that they may be on pharmacological treatment. And it also comes across in a way where they are comforting patients to make them feel not as bad as what other people may make them feel, which I don't make people feel bad, but I will get to the point and be as brutally honest as I can because I don't feel as though beating around the bush does a lot of good. So going to the manufacturer's advisance, and this is found everywhere. You can do this for every medication. It is not a secret. If you type in summary of product characteristics, it is what the manufacturer has to publish with every medication. It's a legal thing. And you can go through clinical particulars. You can look at the pharmacodynamics and pharmacokinetics. You can look at the excipients, incompatibilities, shelf life. You can go through a lot of things with this and the actual studies in which it was carried out. Part that I need to go to is this one here, therapeutic indications. So we are all aware that you can have it or eligible privately in the UK if you have a BMI greater than 30, no questions asked. If you have a BMI less than 30, you can have it of 27 and above, so long as you have hypertension, so high blood pressure, dyslipidemia, meaning abnormal cholesterol, obstructive sleep apnea, cardiovascular disease, pre-diabetes or type 2 diabetes. So that's when you can have it. But if you actually look, it says for weight management, including weight loss and weight maintenance as an adjunct to reduced calorie diet and increased physical activity in adults with an initial mass or BMI of the following. The pharmaceutical company has covered itself because it says it needs to be done in essence with a healthy lifestyle. But this is where I've always said, so I do not think the pharmaceutical companies are innocent in this. In essence, give the treatment for obesity. If everyone uses this, and we've shown clearly within the data that you can drop obscene amounts of weight without doing anything, they have actually cured obesity, but they know the public are basically not intelligent and that they will conform to not changing their lifestyle, not following the actual manufacturer's guidance. And then this is actually seen in the data where we can see the weight regain being 4 times as fast as someone who's gone conventionally. So they've advised and give the right advice, but they know deep down that people aren't going to follow it because they are highly led by results and ease, and that is human biology. We try and take the easy route. Now, like I said, I want to be as unbiased as possible. So when someone prescribes this medication, again, I have a lot of issues against people who are giving it out in clinics because I have found it to be misprescribed, really. So you are meant to be given this health and lifestyle advice as a prescriber. So if I were to issue it on a prescription, I have to give follow-up. I need to make sure people are fully aware of how the medication works, what are its side effects, and then check up to make sure that they are actioning the healthy lifestyle aspects. Otherwise, it will come into what's happening on a global scale at the moment where people are regaining weight at insane rates. And the reason that is that we have to look at a bit of the science. So if you look at this diagram, I know it's complex and I am not asking anyone to remember any of this. But basically, on the right-hand side, this is the feeding centers within the brain, within the hypothalamus. So if you look at these 2 neurons here, so they're basically nerves that stimulate that part of the brain. So there's this one here where it says NPY-AGRP. So if you stimulate that, it will then increase the feeding behavior. It will increase your appetite and reduce energy expenditure. The overall goal of this is to increase energy within the system of the body. And the inverse of that happens with this neuron. So it's POMC/CART, and it does the exact opposite. Now, there are a lot of things. So you can look here, GLP-1, so glucagon-like peptide 1, which is what the medication, what the weight loss jab is essentially. Obviously with Mounjaro, we have the added hormone of GIP. But here, it stimulates this one here, which decreases feeding and increases energy expenditure, and it decreases this one here, which would otherwise increase feeding. But the one thing that I always say is, if you are taking this medication as prescribed, you will have actioned a lot of things. You would have increased the amount of physical activity. You would have reduced the amount of food within your diet. You would have hopefully went from an ultra-processed to an organic whole food diet. And the reason why that's vital is because you will be normalizing your metabolic set point. You will be normalizing the amount of muscle mass. You will be normalizing the amount of fat mass for your frame. And that's why it's so important that when you come off that medication, then you continue to adhere to these standards so that you do not regain the weight in the same manner. And hopefully your body is adjusted to this new set of normal. But the one thing that I've always drawn a lot of attention to, and it's not really in the science or the guidance at the moment, but if you look on this diagram, leptin is here doing the exact same thing as GLP-1. So leptin is, it's actually on this picture. So it's released by adipose tissue, so fat tissue. So the more fat that you have, the more leptin that you will release. And it basically goes to the brain, and in a simplified way, it says whether you have enough energy stores or not. So if you've got a lot of fat, you will have a lot more leptin. It will basically tell the brain you have enough energy stored, so we don't really need to eat. So then it will go in the same way that the weight loss jab is doing, and it will basically decrease the amount of feeding because you don't need any more energy. But when these people are losing weight at obscene rates without doing anything else, so they are reducing the amount of fat mass, that will also decrease the amount of leptin, so that when you come off that medication, you've got low levels of leptin, meaning that your body is particularly vulnerable in the eyes of the brain. So it will want to increase the amount of energy within the system. It will want to increase the amount of feeding. And that's why you get a massive appetite and a change in dynamics, which is what we are seeing on the data with the BBC report as well, but mainly from the BMJ. And that is one thing that I try to advise people and try to educate them on, is that you cannot expect to keep your lifestyle that is obviously putting you in an unhealthy bracket and doing all these things to put weight on your body. And then when you remove that stimulus and you've not changed anything in your life, that then you are still going to have the same effects. That is obviously barbaric, and why would we think about that in that way? Now, I feel as though I've probably gone off track, but the bottom line is that I don't believe the reason why people are regaining weight are due to the health system or the pharmaceutical company. I think it's solely due to the fact that people are not adhering to the lifestyle changes that they should be. Yes, could the health system and could the pharmaceutical companies maybe give a bit more guidance or be a bit more cautious when giving out the medication? Of course, I am not saying that they are solely not to blame. I do have a lot of instances where they have misprescribed, and I am fully against that. But in the majority of cases, and this is all anecdotal as well, obviously I don't have the data to back this up, but a lot of people do not change their lifestyle. If you don't remove the offending agents, so in the case of a lot of people, it's lack of physical activity, it's overconsumption of just general energy in the terms of food, but also ultra-processed food. You then add this magical drug in, which works unbelievably well, and then you're not changing anything there. You remove that medication and expect everything to carry on. It's not going to. And that is why people who have followed the conventional routes regain their weight a lot slower. They do not reach the same depths in terms of weight loss as the medication, but they have basically created a new metabolic set point. And that is why I am largely against GLP-1 medication, in the sense that it's not forcing people to make the healthy lifestyle changes. I always say this, I don't know whether I can really say it on camera, but if weight was the perfect metric, then being a drug addict on the street who weighs about 4 stone would be the healthiest person in society. And we all know that's not true. So when you are just using these medications to get down in terms of weight, you are not improving any other of your functional aspects. You are not increasing VO2 max. You are not increasing muscle mass. You are not doing a lot of these things. So that is why I am largely against the medication. I am for the medication if you are extremely obese, and obesity is probably going to be the primary cause of death within the next 3 to 6 months, even 12 months. By all means, I do believe you should be on that medication. But again, comes, should you have got to that stage in the first place, and what would have happened if you didn't have this pharmacological or health input? And that's the thing, is that we have created this new era of medicine, basically, where we tiptoe around the right answer. I have a lot of patients in my clinic where they're unsure of how they've got to a certain situation, whether that be diabetic health, whether that be cardiovascular, weight, and we tiptoe around it because of medical legal situations, when in reality we need to be as brutally honest as possible for people to get the right result out of it. The human body, in 99.9% of cases, is not designed to have a lot of weight on there through nature. We are meant to be mobile, we are meant to be doing a lot of these processes independently. So when people want to class obesity as a disease, I find that very hard because of 2 things really. In the UK, over 26% of adults are classed as obese. So in the UK, we would have over 1/4 of the adult population classed as diseased, no matter what other comorbidities they've got at the time. But then also, does that then remove the onus off the person to do it again? And that is the biggest thing in health, is that we need to give help and guidance, but we need to also be brutally honest and keep the accountability on people. I obviously done a lot of exercise today. I've done a run club this morning. I have done a hike for about 5 miles. And then I've done VO2 max training, which is zone 5 for anyone who uses heart rate zones for, I think my efforts come to 9 to 10 minutes. things that I do not want to do. But then if I sit there and say, I don't know how this person is fitter than me, how they are lifting more, yes, there may be some form of genetic components, but 99% of the time it is due to the fact that they are working harder, they are taking more accountability, and that's what we need to do within the health system to make sure that people are on the right track and that we are giving them the right advice and we can guide them in that direction. I honestly don't know what route I've taken on this video. I started off with GLP-1s, I seen the headline, thought it would be good to go through why it solely isn't on one person or one system. It's an amalgamation of a few things, but people really need to be wary of this. This medication is going to be highly abused over the next 5-10 years. It is being abused now. I am seeing it on a daily basis. I wish people would just understand how they work, because anyone who sits there who's not from a medical background and says, I know how this works, are completely lying to you, because I see it every day. I go into the science a lot and I still don't know how it fully works 100%, and I couldn't reel off everything about that medication. So be very wary when someone tells you they know a lot when they've not got a lot of experience. And this video actually took a bit more of a negative turn than I thought. But if you have any ideas, any video concepts that you want me to go through, by all means comment them below. If you disagree with what I've said about taking the accountability of the health system and putting it more on the people as the patient, then by all means, I am open to any discussion, because at the end of the day, I'm not here to be right. I just want to live in a world where we all strive to have the right answer at the end of the day. Whether that means that I'm wrong a lot of the time, that is fine. But if you've got this far, thanks for watching. So as a disclaimer, this video actually does go into the bits about medication and health, but it is only for informational purposes only. We have not created a relationship. And if you are to seek any medical information or advice, then you should do so from your local and registered practitioner. And as always, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.